The conversations continue here on the morning show on ETV. Moments before we get into the second of our time together, we continue with the theme of Think Tank Tuesday. And in today's Real People Tech Stories segment, we're talking about a very exciting and important shift in our education system. Starting this year, South African learners from grade R to grade 9 will be introduced to the newly gazetted Coding and Robotics curriculum, a game changer for how we prepare the next generation for this tech-driven future. I mean, we see it in our current reality that there's a lot of technology that we're using, and of course in the rise of AI, which we don't even fully understand. But with our schools often under-resourced and teachers still getting to grips with this new territory, what support systems are in place to make this transition smoother? Well, joining us via Zoom this morning is Yolyn Jacobs, who is the publisher for Schools and Home Learning and Oxford University Press South Africa, to help us unpack what this all means and how prepared we really are, and how their newly published Illustrated Coding and Robotics Dictionary is helping to simplify the journey for teachers, for learners, and more importantly also for parents. Yolyn, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the morning show.
Morning.
It's great to be chatting to you, because I think this is a conversation that a lot of people are feeling themselves, feeling like, man, I'm excited for it, but also I'm nervous because I don't know so much about it. And maybe you can help us understand why it's so important that we have coding and robotics in the classrooms all across South Africa.
So there's a number of reasons for this. And at a foundation phase level, one of the biggest reasons is this exposure to new topics is very important. And the manner in which coding and robotics is going to be unrolled in South Africa emphasizes that real play-based learning, project-based learning that is essential for cognitive development in a foundation phase.
Yeah, and I think this is something that we're seeing more and more kind of happen in smaller spaces. Over the last couple of years especially, it's been happening in a smaller dosage, so to say, in extracurricular activities, in extramural, and it wasn't accessible to all, but this being gazetted definitely makes it accessible to so much more. I'm assuming that this will pay forward, if I could say, and really ready the learners of today for the possible tech-driven future that they'll be going into in the future.
Absolutely. The world is changing very, very rapidly. And with that, we can't control the way in which it changes. So what we have to do is equip learners to be able to function within that world, and not only function within it, but to engineer the changes, to stand up on a global platform and say, these are the things that's important to us as young South Africans, and here's the innovations that we've come up with in order to drive that. But more than that, it also gives a sense of resilience. Within coding, there's this practice of testing and analyzing and retesting and failing and trying again. And that's something that we can apply in every sphere of our lives. So not only children who are going into STEAM careers, but those wanting to go into entrepreneurship, for example. This is something that's going to lay a foundation for those decisions in their life as well.
You know, Yolyn, I'm sort of taken back into time to years ago when it was a requirement for many job spaces that you are proficient in MS-DOS or proficient in Microsoft Word or Office, as it were, right? And this is something that is changing for them, where there is this requirement for them to be proficient, so to say, with technology as they grow up. But as much as I remember of then, with proficiencies in MS-DOS and Microsoft Office, it wasn't accessible to all. And it brings the question now in terms of the readiness of South African education system to facilitate this to all learners. Are we ready? Do we have capacity?
I think as schools, teachers, even as parents, we're going to have the sense of we're not ready. But our children are ready. And if we hesitate more to dive into this, we're actually going to end up doing them the disservice, because they're the ones that have to live within this landscape that they find themselves. And one of the best things about the curriculum is it is exceptionally well written, and it is unplugged. It teaches the foundations of coding and robotics and this computational thinking without needing a device, internet connection, or vast technologies that teachers are not familiar with. So any teacher that can use a teacher's guide and a learner book or a textbook you're ready.
Yeah. And I mean, you're so right in saying the children are ready. I mean, you see kids nowadays and how they work these devices, how they work these cell phones. You can see it's as if they're born with this intrinsic knowledge of being able to use these devices. But it's not the same for the adults in the room. They still struggle to work their way around WhatsApp. Never mind the idea of coding and robotics, which brings me to the teachers in these particular spaces and their readiness. Tell us about kind of the work that's been done before we get to the handbook that you've got available in the dictionary, the work that's been done with teachers to ready them towards this idea of coding and robotics becoming as norm as what we see it dreamt to be. Are they getting closer? Are they getting equipped well enough?
They are, and it's important to remember that it's not a case of by the end of next year we're expecting every child to be building a robot and every teacher to be using engineering terms and jargon. It is a rollout, and there has to be an understanding of, as we go through this, we're going to unpack what the difficulties are and then we address them. But in terms of current readiness, there are extensive training programs in the pipelines, and the biggest thing is having teachers be confident with it. So what the curriculum has done is it's taken key areas of literacy, numeracy, and life skills, and then repackaged this in a way that speaks to a digital world. So a lot of the same skills that teachers are using for numeracy come into play when they teach coding and robotics. But there's a little bit of a more nuanced focus and targeted area in thinking that now specifically speaks to coding and algorithms and decomposition and those things. So as soon as we start teacher training, that the confidence begins to build. And there I think we find a really big increase whenever I've spoken to teachers, even those who are openly hostile to the idea. As soon as they start learning more, they become confident, and with that there's the willingness to learn more and experiment and to take this into the classroom.
Yolyn, I mean, this has been very insightful, and I think I'm excited about the future that young kids will be growing up into, and the possibility of this tech-driven world that they'll be able to not just live in, but they'll be fit enough to exist and be able to move it forward as they become the adults in the different rooms that they will be in. So thank you so much for the conversation this morning and for enlightening us, many parents and teachers alike, to be able to know that, hey, this is something that is possible. And we're slowly but surely getting there. Like you rightfully said, this is just a rollout. We will get there. So thank you so much for your conversation this morning.
Thank you. Have a lovely morning.
Same to you. Thank you. That's Yolyn chatting to us this morning, talking all things tech stories, and in this case, talking about the education system. We've seen this shift, and it's truly inspiring to see the tools like the Illustrated Coding and Robotics Dictionary playing such an important role in making this new curriculum more inclusive and understandable to all. And to you at home, whether you're a parent or you're a teacher or you may be a learner, remember that the future is digital. You just look around you right now and you're seeing everything becoming more digital. And building confidence in coding starts with the right support. And if we do it now, we will be ready for this said future. It's just gone after 7 o'clock. When you come back, we've got your news.